My girlfriend asked around 50 times to sleep with a man and begged me for years to try an open experiment. Had a breakdown after 15 hours when I did it. Now wants a 6-day festival hookup with a girl she knows and says I'm controlling for not agreeing. I'm 23 and I've been with my girlfriend, also 23, for about 2 years now. For most of our relationship, things have been solid, but there's one topic that's been a constant. She's asked me, at least 50 times, if I'd ever be open to having intimate with a man. It wasn't something I'd ever done or even seriously considered before, but it clearly intrigued her. Earlier this year, in February, after a lot of conversations, I told her I'd be open to trying it. She got really excited about the idea, and we agreed on some boundaries together about who it could be and how it would happen. Eventually, I met up with a guy we both agreed was appropriate. What followed was exactly what you'd expect. I went through with it. Throughout the whole thing, my girlfriend was texting me constantly, asking how it was going in an excited, almost encouraging way. At the time, it felt like we were both on the same page. Before any of this happened, though, I had warned her multiple times about something I knew could come up afterward, the emotional clarity phase. I told her that even if everything seemed fine in the moment, there was a good chance she might later feel hurt, insecure, or like something had been crossed. That's exactly what happened. After spending about 17 hours with him, including staying over, which, to be clear, was her suggestion, she started messaging me saying she felt awful. She said she felt hurt, almost like she'd been cheated on, and really low overall. Even though I had warned her about this possibility, I didn't throw it back in her face. I understood where she was coming from, and I focused on reassuring her. After I got back, I spent weeks talking things through with her, making sure she knew she was my priority, that I loved her, and that what happened didn't change how I felt about her at all. I also told her clearly that I didn't want to repeat that experience again. I cut all contact with the guy immediately, without her even having to ask, because to me that was just the obvious thing to do. Part of our original agreement, though, was that if I explored that side, she could also explore being with a girl. At the time, that felt fair. Over the next few months, things settled down. She told me she was over what happened and that it didn't bother her anymore. I checked in with her multiple times to make sure she wasn't just suppressing her feelings, but she insisted she was okay. I chose to believe her. Now, this is where things start to feel complicated for me. Recently, she decided she wants to go through with her side of the agreement and be intimate with a girl. I was open to that in principle because that's what we had agreed on. But the person she chose isn't exactly a stranger. She's not a close best friend either, but she's someone my girlfriend has hung out with, keeps in her Instagram close friends, and has even been invited on a 6-day festival trip with. That's where my discomfort starts to kick in. When we originally set boundaries, the idea was that it wouldn't be someone emotionally close or someone who could become a recurring presence in our lives. With the guy I met, there was no emotional connection, no ongoing relationship, it was a one-time thing, and I made sure of that. But in this case, it feels like the lines are getting blurred. Even if she says they're not that close, it doesn't feel the same to me. What's been bothering me the most isn't just who she chose, it's that we can't seem to get past the conversation about the festival. The idea that they might spend 6 days together in that kind of environment, with that kind of intention, feels completely different from what I did. It doesn't feel like a controlled, one-time experience anymore. It feels like something that could grow into something more or, at the very least, create a different kind of bond. I'm trying to be fair because I know I went through with my side, and I don't want to be hypocritical. At the same time, I can't ignore how I feel. It doesn't sit right with me, and I'm starting to question whether our original agreement still makes sense in this situation. What she told me next is where everything really started to feel off. She said she was considering going to this 6-day festival with a girl, and not only that, she already had it in her head that they would be intimate for at least a few of those days, specifically the last 2 or 3. Hearing that honestly didn't sit right with me, and not just because of the rules we had set earlier. It was more about what this actually meant in reality. I tried to explain it to her as calmly as I could. I told her I don't think our situations are even close to being equal. When I went through with my side of things, it was less than a full day. There was no ongoing connection, no extended time together, nothing beyond that one experience. Meanwhile, what she's proposing is spending 6 full days with someone she claims isn't really a friend, but realistically, no one goes to a 6-day festival alone with someone they barely know. That kind of time together naturally creates closeness. On top of that, she's already told me that about half of that time will involve being physically intimate. So from my perspective, it's not just about trying something once. It's about spending nearly a week together, building comfort, and then repeating that intimacy over multiple days. That feels completely different from what I did. Her defense is that it takes her longer to feel comfortable enough with someone to get to that point, so she needs the time. And to be fair, I do know her well enough to believe that's generally true. She's not someone who rushes into things. But even understanding that, I still can't see how that makes this comparable. The issue isn't just how long it takes to get there, it's what happens once you do, and how long you stay in that situation. I've told her multiple times that I have no problem with her exploring this. I've encouraged her to do it. If she wanted a one-night experience like I had, I would genuinely be okay with that. But this doesn't feel like that anymore. This feels like something much more prolonged, almost like a temporary relationship, even if she doesn't see it that way. What's been bothering me the most, though, is that I feel like she's missing the emotional side of this completely. I've tried to explain to her that the same clarity phase she went through is something I will go through too. She felt terrible after around 15 to 17 hours of me being with someone else. She described it as feeling worse than cheating. I remember how intense that was for her, and I did everything I could to support her through it. Now I'm trying to get her to understand that I'll likely feel the same way, but in a situation where I don't have her there to reassure me. Instead, I'll be at home while she's away for 6 days, probably not able to talk much, while also knowing she's being intimate with the same person over multiple days. I asked her to really think about that. If less than a day was enough to make her feel that way, how am I supposed to feel after several days of that? I've tried to explain that it's not just about the physical act, it's about the time, the repeated nature of it, and the environment. 6 days together, just the two of them, creates a completely different dynamic. It's not a one-time experience anymore. It's something that has time to grow into something more, even if that's not the intention. I've also told her that I genuinely thought this would be a one-time, one-night kind of thing for both of us. Based on how she reacted after my experience, I assumed she'd feel the same way about keeping it short and controlled. I mean, she was already asking when the guy would leave after less than a day. The only reason he stayed longer was because of something outside our control. That alone should show how strongly she reacted to the situation. But now, when I bring up these concerns, it feels like I'm not being heard. She and even some of her friends say that it's completely fair and that I'm overthinking it. That's frustrating because I'm not trying to stop her from doing anything. I'm trying to make sure that whatever happens doesn't completely disregard how I'm going to feel. I've tried explaining this to her more times than I can count, and at this point it feels like I'm just repeating myself while nothing actually changes. From where I'm standing, these two situations are clearly not equal, but she, and even some of her friends, keep insisting that they are. That's what's been getting under my skin the most. It's not just about the situation itself anymore. It's about the fact that my feelings don't seem to be part of the conversation at all. When everything happened with me and that guy, I was extremely careful about how I handled it afterward. The moment she started feeling bad, I dropped everything to reassure her. I made it very clear that she was my priority, that I loved her, and that what we did didn't change how I felt about her. I didn't dismiss her emotions, even though I had warned her beforehand that this exact thing might happen. I understood that once reality hit, it would feel different, and I took responsibility for helping her through that. Now I'm trying to get her to understand that I'm very likely going to go through that same emotional crash, but on a much bigger scale. She felt that way after less than 24 hours. I'm being asked to sit with that feeling for 6 full days. 6 days of knowing she's with someone else, building a connection, and being intimate multiple times, while I'm just here, dealing with it on my own. That's not something you can just brush off or be okay with because of some agreement we made months ago. And the thing is, I'm not even against her exploring this. I've said that from the beginning. I encouraged her to try it. I've told her multiple times that I'd be okay with her having a similar one-time experience, like I did. But what she's proposing now doesn't feel like the same thing at all. A one-night situation is completely different from spending nearly a week together, especially when she's already told me that several of those days will involve being physically intimate. To me, it's not just about the physical aspect. It's the time, the environment, and the emotional buildup. Going to a 6-day festival with someone, whether she calls her a friend or not, naturally creates a bond. You don't spend that much time with someone alone, sharing experiences, without something deeper forming. That's what makes this feel so different from what I did. I've tried explaining it to her in the simplest way possible. She already knows how bad it can feel because she went through it herself. She described it as worse than cheating. So how does it make sense to knowingly put me in a situation that is longer, more intense, and offers less reassurance? When I was with that guy, I was still checking my phone, responding, making sure she felt okay. In this case, she'll be at a festival, probably with limited contact, and I'll be left to deal with my thoughts for days. When I bring this up, though, it somehow turns into me being controlling or trying to dictate the terms. I won't lie, maybe I am trying to set boundaries. But I don't think that's the same as being controlling. I'm not telling her she can't do anything. I'm saying that if we're going to do this, it should at least be fair and take both of our emotional limits into account. What really started to make me uncomfortable, though, was the way she talks about it sometimes. There have been moments where she said she can't wait for me to feel what she felt. She's even used the word cucked, which honestly didn't come across as a joke. It felt more like she was looking forward to me being hurt, like this was some kind of payback. That's when I started questioning what this is really about for her. Because it doesn't feel like curiosity anymore. It feels like she's trying to even some kind of internal score. I know she has issues with my past. My body count has always been something that bothers her, even though she knew about it from the very beginning. She asked me directly, and I was honest. That was before we even became a couple, so it's not like I hid anything or misled her. Still, it keeps coming up, and I can't shake the feeling that the situation is partly influenced by that. I understand that retroactive jealousy is real. I've had those thoughts too. But there's a difference between having those feelings and acting on them in a way that hurts your partner. Sometimes it feels like she thinks I can handle this better because of my past, or worse, that I somehow deserve to go through what she went through. And that's where it starts to feel really unfair. Because despite my past, I've never cheated on her. I've never crossed a line or given her a reason to doubt me. I've been committed to her and to our relationship. Meanwhile, she's admitted that she cheated in previous relationships. I chose not to hold that against her because I believe people can grow and change. But it's hard not to notice the double standard when I'm being judged for something that happened before we were even together. At this point, it feels like the conversation has stopped being about fairness or mutual understanding. It feels like I'm being told to accept something that I'm clearly not comfortable with, and if I don't, I'm labeled as the problem. At this point, I feel like I've explained my frustration in every possible way, but it still doesn't seem to land. Most people would probably already see where I'm coming from. This isn't just about her wanting to explore something. We already crossed that line together. It's about the scale of what she's proposing and how different it is from what I did. When I was with that guy, it was less than a day. He was a complete stranger, someone I had no emotional connection to, and the whole situation was contained. Even then, it was enough to completely shake her. Within about 15 hours, she was texting me saying she felt terrible, replaceable, and worse than if I had cheated. I didn't argue with her or tell her she was overreacting. I understood, and I focused entirely on reassuring her. Now she's telling me she wants to go to a 6-day festival with someone she already kind of knows. Whether she calls her a friend or not, you don't go away for 6 days with someone you barely know without building some kind of connection. On top of that, she's already said she plans on being intimate with her for multiple days. That's not even remotely comparable to what I did. What really gets me is her argument that once you've done it once, it doesn't matter how many times it happens after. I know for a fact that isn't true because when I told her how many times I was with that guy, it clearly affected her. She got more upset, more emotional. That alone proves that frequency and duration do matter. It mattered to her then, but now suddenly it doesn't matter when the roles are reversed. And, to be clear, I'm not even saying she can't do it. I've told her multiple times that I'm okay with her exploring this, even encouraged it. But I expected it to be under similar conditions, a one-time, short experience, not a nearly week-long trip where I'm left alone dealing with everything while she's fully immersed in it. I think what frustrates me most is the lack of consistency. When she was the one hurting, her feelings were valid, important, and needed immediate attention. When I try to explain that I'm likely going to feel the same way, if not worse, I'm told I'm being controlling or trying to dictate terms. But from my perspective, I'm just trying to apply the same emotional logic she went through. I'm not trying to control who she does this with. I'm not even trying to stop her from doing it altogether. I just want there to be some level of fairness and awareness. If 15 hours was enough to break her emotionally, how am I supposed to feel about 6 days? Especially when I won't have the same level of communication or reassurance she had from me. It honestly feels like my feelings are being minimized or pushed aside. Like I'm expected to just deal with it because we agreed to something, even though the situation she's proposing now is completely different from what we originally talked about. That's why I'm here asking for honest opinions. From where I'm standing, I don't think I'm being unreasonable. I'm not shutting her down or forbidding anything. I'm just asking for the same standards and consideration that I gave her when the roles were reversed. And I'll be honest, I'd really appreciate hearing from women on this too. Not because the guys responding haven't been helpful, they have, but I want to understand how this looks from the other side as well. I don't want to sit here in an echo chamber. I genuinely want to know if I'm missing something or if what I'm asking for is actually fair.